Mitchell's approaching 18, he's 18 in May. As a person, Mitchell is very happy in his own skin. He's a very contented young man. Quite clear in his own mind about what he likes and dislikes, and is very good at communicating that to the people that know him, particularly through his eyes. His eyes are very expressive.
Where is his iPod?
Mitchell hasn't actually got a proper diagnosis. If we talk to doctors, it tends to be around a neuronal migration disorder or septo-optic dysplasia plus, which simply means that his brain didn't grow properly when he was in the womb.
Take another sip. Yeah.
He has epilepsy, he has a visual impairment, his hearing's fine. He hypoventilates, which means that he underbreathes, which is why he needs some support with ventilation. He has a tracheostomy and he uses CPAP at night.
Better.
He also has a gastrostomy because he has trouble with his swallowing. So a lot of issues really for Mitchell.
Better now, we're thirsty.
When Mitchell's not at school, we like to go out and about as a family. Daniel, Mitchell's brother, plays rugby, so Mitchell loves to go and watch the rugby matches. He particularly enjoys all the shouting and the enthusiasm of the crowds. Yeah. Lovely, thanks very much. Bye. There was a turning point in Mitchell's life in 2001. He was admitted to intensive care with a severe pneumonia, was backed into a corner and needed a tracheostomy in order to survive.
Cough mate, are you ready?
So over the next 12 months, a care package was put in place that would enable Mitchell to live at home with his increased medical needs.
You feel better now, do you?
Certainly does. When Mitchell first came home, I would say there was probably a honeymoon period where we were glad to be reunited as a family and to begin to live a more normal life again. But over a period of time, I became frustrated by the bureaucracy and the lack of flexibility in the support that Mitchell was receiving. One of the things that was the most frustrating was the fact that we had no choice at all over the people that were coming into our home. We weren't involved in the recruitment process and only met the carers at the point that they'd actually been recruited and had their induction. Being supported by the home care team didn't work for us as a family because it felt very much like it was a one-size-fits-all. To me, it made sense for Mitchell to be central to decision-making and planning, but that wasn't the way it was. And it was at that point, I think, that it began to occur to me that there was something that needed to change. The first steps for any family really is getting the confidence, because it does take confidence to be able to go and challenge a system. I know I was very scared of rocking the boat. I was worried that by drawing attention to ourselves and challenging the service that we were getting, that actually we might end up worse off. So it was having the support of the people around me who kept on reinforcing the fact that what we were doing made sense that gave me the confidence to negotiate those first few years. Over a period of time, we'd been managing a small direct payment, and it was the experience of having the direct payment that made us realise what was possible, that we could organise the staff, that we could train the staff, and what we sought then to do was to simply expand that experience into the wider package. When we first approached the PCT, it was very clear that this was groundbreaking. What we were asking for hadn't been done before. And whilst the PCT were very tentative about working with us on this, there was a feeling for me that there was a genuine commitment on their part to try and make it work. We didn't know how, and that was what we had to do. We had to work out the how. But what felt very, very important to me was that all of those discussions were held together.
There's nothing much there, is there? Yeah.
What we did was concentrate on the things we could do within the current legislation rather than things we couldn't do. We looked at the risk of the package and compared it to the risk of other packages we have, and actually realised the risks were quite the same really. There wasn't that much of greater risk. We realised that we couldn't dot the I's and cross the T's, but we were willing to work together to actually get to where we needed to be. I think that paid professionals, for want of a better word, are recognising that families are the experts and friends of the family are the experts in the individual, and that quite often they have the solutions that we don't often have.
It is about a shift, a real shift in power, and I realise that that can be difficult for organisations and services to surrender that power, but that to me is what makes a difference.
Give you medis.
We looked at all the different options and decided to use a third party to hold the budget, who would employ the staff on our behalf, and we would manage them on a day-to-day basis. It gave us the choice and control that we wanted, but without the legal responsibility of employing the staff.
Yeah, you like that one, don't you? Do you want the juniper berry?
That one.
We wrote a detailed training plan, thinking about each individual need, breaking it down, but also delivering it in a way to the staff that would begin with learning about Mitchell as a person and then gradually moving towards some of the clinical tasks.
She'll feel that. What's that one?
Things have changed dramatically for Mitchell. There's very much a sense for us all that this is a team around Mitchell.
Smell that. Oh, you like that, don't you? With the biting of your lips.
That's meant that people work very well together. They're very supportive of each other.
Into them corners.
We know what we're about, we know what we're trying to achieve, and what we're trying to achieve is to give Mitchell a good life and to keep him well.
Is that yummy? Yes, yummy.
Right, mate, shall we see how your chest is?
A lot of people assume that if you have a personal health budget, it means all or nothing. That if you sort of cut loose from traditional services, that somehow you're on your own. That's not the case, and it certainly isn't the case for us.
Okay, so
What we did was make some very practical decisions about which bits we wanted to manage ourselves and which services we wanted to retain.
this week, how's it been with his chest?
It's good. His chest's good at the moment.
He's been sleeping very well, actually, hasn't he?
It's worked quite well in that we've integrated together really, that I have training sessions with the carers, so they'll join me on my treatments with Mitchell, and we can go through and discuss any problems, discuss how well he is. They give me a lot of good feedback and good information so that I know I can trust what they're saying, so that I can put an effective, safe plan in place for Mitchell.
Where is he? You right, fella? So sorry I haven't been to see you for a while.
He's pleased to see you, Bill.
One of Mitchell's closest friends is Billy, who lives probably about an hour away, but that doesn't seem to be a barrier to the friendship.
Well, can you reach it, Bill?
Yeah.
Hold on. There you go. Will you give him that for me? Being Mitchell's carer involves seeing him as a whole person, meeting all of his needs, from his medical needs, which are important, but also his social needs and his educational needs, helping him interact with different people and his friends and helping facilitate relationships for him.
Go down first. The whole thing.
Oh, thanks, Bill.
Mitchell's personal health budget has given us a lot more freedom. We can do things that we couldn't do before. One of the constraints previously was the fact that we couldn't take staff out of the local area, so that made holidays impossible. So since Mitchell's had his personal health budget, we've been down to London and he's been to see The Lion King, and we've also been away on holiday last year and are planning holiday for his 18th birthday. So that in itself is giving him a lot more freedom and a lot more of a life. Transition for any young person is a very worrying time. He will be assessed for continuing health care and will almost certainly be eligible for continuing health care. If Mitchell hadn't have had the personal health budget, we could have been facing a very worrying time because there are no equivalent adult services in the local area that could have provided an equivalent service. So that would have been very worrying. It would have meant the end of the relationships with his carers, some of whom have worked with him for 7 or 8 years. What we're trying to do at the moment as Mitchell approaches 18 is to begin to build new relationships with people in adult services. And what we want to ensure is that as much as we're planning for the future, we're also planning that if Mitchell does become more unwell, that we have some sort of control over that. There are probably people who doubt that a young person with Mitchell's needs, with the complexity of his needs, can live safely at home. And I think what we've demonstrated with all the systems that we have in place, with the review, with the training, with the supervision, with the clinical governance, that it is perfectly possible to live safely at home and to have a good life in the mix.
You're too good. Ah. Yeah.